Why was Dooku filled with such terror when Anakin Skywalker removed both of his hands during their climactic duel in Revenge of the Sith? A reaction not purely out of pain, but something else entirely that we will be breaking down today, with Anakin doing this shocking Dooku to his core for a very specific reason that is ingrained in the Count himself. Greetings, acolytes of the Force and students of the galaxy, and welcome back to our archives. Today, we will be analyzing the deeper subtext in the final duel between Dooku and Anakin Skywalker, one of the greatest rivalries in all of Star Wars lore, and certainly the most heated rivalry over the Clone Wars. In many ways, Dooku was the one that shaped Anakin Skywalker into the man and fighter that he would become, perhaps even being a better teacher to Anakin through trial by fire than his own master Obi-Wan Kenobi. But there is something important about their final interaction, and Anakin severing both of Dooku's hands that means way more than meets the eye. So today, we will be opening up that holocron. Obviously in Star Wars lore, when an individual loses a hand, it is not a pleasant experience at all, from Luke Skywalker to Mace Windu. But again, there is something specific about when Dooku loses his hands, and in his face, you see not pain, but pure and utter horror and shock. The reason for this speaks solely to Dooku's arrogance. In Legends continuity, thanks to the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which is one of the greatest Star Wars novels out there by the way. In the moments right before Dooku faces down Anakin Skywalker, Dooku makes the case for why Anakin should not be turned to the dark side, and in fact even proposes that they attempt to turn Obi-Wan instead of the young Skywalker. Dooku states several reasons for why Anakin should not be selected and should not be turned, stating that while Anakin Skywalker is clearly the more powerful of the two, he is also uncontrollable, with this speaking to Dooku's high opinion of Qui-Gon Jinn, and that being shared with Obi-Wan Kenobi. In a way, Dooku believed that Obi-Wan was a sort of grandson, and in stark contrast to this, there was something about Anakin Skywalker that Dooku was repulsed by, and that was in fact his cybernetic arm. In the novelization for Revenge of the Sith, it is explained that Dooku is extremely arrogant and massively elitist, and at several points throughout Legends continuity, he is absolutely repulsed by cybernetics. He is repulsed by General Grievous, but with Anakin Skywalker, it is far more personal. It could be said that Dooku is highly jealous of Anakin, but also believes to his very core that he is more powerful, and that he does not want Anakin Skywalker to join the ranks of the Sith and become a true rival like Sidious desires. Instead, he points to Anakin Skywalker's cybernetic arm as one of the major reasons why he should not be turned, stating that Anakin had no taste, and that if Dooku had lost a hand, that he would have learned to use his lightsaber with only a single arm. Dooku even pointed out that it was he who took the arm from Anakin Skywalker in the first place, and with Anakin deciding to replace it with a cybernetic arm, Dooku viewed this as the ultimate insult. He viewed this as no longer being a gentleman and cutting corners, something that Dooku prided himself on never doing. However, Darth Sidious's response to this is actually quite brilliant, as Sidious even makes a very good case that Anakin Skywalker losing his arm could work in their advantage. This all stems back to Sidious's original plan for Anakin if he had not been burned on Mustafar. It was Sidious's original plan to have Anakin Skywalker be the golden boy of a newfound empire, a hero of the Clone Wars, as Darth Sidious made it one of his major goals to let the legend of Anakin Skywalker and the Valiant Warrior permeate throughout the galaxy in the Clone Wars itself. In fact, he was going to use Anakin Skywalker as the individual that would transition the Republic and the fall of the Jedi into the Empire, as if he could get Anakin to publicly state that the Jedi were traitors, then he would have the entire galaxy eating out of his palm. Of course, this would not be the case in the end, but Darth Sidious made an interesting point considering the cybernetic arm of Anakin. As Sidious stated, this represented Anakin Skywalker's willingness to make sacrifices, and was a physical representation of his heroism during the Clone Wars. Thinking about this on a larger scale, we really get the idea that Anakin Skywalker truly was to inherit the Empire and the Sith one day. And this also goes to show why Darth Sidious was so angered by Anakin's defeat on Mustafar. Anakin truly was the key to everything. Of course, in the end, Dooku would lose this argument, but it also goes to show just why he was so horrified when Anakin Skywalker took his hands. When this happens, Dooku finds himself at a crossroads. He will either have to give up his elitist nature and get two cybernetic hands, giving up his distinguished taste, or he will be forced to never wield a lightsaber for the rest of his life. Dooku's defining feature, Dooku loved the Force and he loved the study of the dark side itself. But this is not where Dooku found pure joy. In fact, he and Anakin could be kindred spirits in this regard. Both of them were truly passionate about lightsaber combat, and it is this realization, not simply the pain, which is why Dooku is so terrified in this moment. He will either have to condemn himself to a lesser life, considered himself a cyborg and a lesser being, or he will never touch the weapon that has brought him such joy ever again. This also speaks to the arrogance of Dooku though, as instead of fearing for his life in this moment, he is fearing for his future. And it is not until his own master in Darth Sidious tells Anakin to kill the injured Sith Lord that he truly realizes the gravity of this failure, and the gravity of the deception of his master. The Revenge of the Sith novelization goes such a long way to illustrate Dooku as a character, and just how selfish of a man he truly is. Even after Anakin Skywalker removes both of his hands, a disgusting final moment to an individual that very much Dooku has grown to hate, he still believes that he will be spared. In the end, it isn't until his very final moment that Dooku even fears for his life. He is in complete and utter fear for his future. He will have to go down to the level of the General Grievouses and the Anakin Skywalkers. And what makes this even more appalling and insulting, in just moments earlier, Dooku was discussing how this repulsed him about Anakin. Dooku was never intended to be made out as a hero of the Clone Wars. In fact, he was going to be openly forgiven by Anakin, or at least that's what Dooku thought. With the transition of the Separatists and the Republic coming together in the forms of Anakin and Dooku making peace. But the loss of Dooku's hands would not pose him as a hero of the Clone Wars. He was always meant to be the villain, and he and the galaxy would perceive the loss of his hands as that fact. He would not be able to have it with pride as Anakin did. And in this way, perhaps Dooku even wanted to die, and perhaps this represented a far worse outcome than the Chosen One killing him. Dooku's downfall has always been his elitism, as well as his pride. It couldn't be worse that his greatest rival, and one of the men that he hated the most, beat him at the thing that he prided himself in, but that he also brought him down to a level that for years Dooku believed he was above. And in a twisted way, this is one of the most tragic final moments to a character in all of Star Wars lore. But now, my friends, and fellow acolytes of the Force, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on the deeper meaning that this scene in Revenge of the Sith actually had? And are you as big a fan of the Revenge of the Sith novelization as we are? And did you catch on to this deeper meaning for the removal of Dooku's hands in the film? As always, my friends, and acolytes of the Force, thank you so much for stopping by our archives and opening up our holocron. Until next time, my friends, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.